Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Super Feeler podcast. My name is Lori, and today I'm joined by Christopher, who is going to share a little bit of a different story with us today. Usually we're talking about borderline personality disorder, but today we're going to be talking about autism and the experiences with masking and suicidality and all of that. So really excited to have you. I'm so glad you reached out.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Of course. So let's kind of get into just who you are as a person. I know you were diagnosed with autism, like you said, 6 or 7 years ago, but who were you before that?
Besides the guy that masked and didn't know he was doing that, for a long time, I grew up overseas most of my life. And mainly because of, when I was a kid, my parents worked for the nonprofits overseas, so they would send us, Ghana, for instance.
Wow,
Libya,
cool.
Ecuador. And as I got older, I went into the whole corporate social responsibility phase, building social impact models to measure their social impact. I ended up transferring over to a federal subcontractor that we used to work with. We did a lot of work with USAID and implemented U.S. government-funded projects in places like Mali, Bangladesh, Haiti.
Wow.
Yeah, I would travel to all those places. And that's who I kind of am and was before the autism diagnosis.
So what was it like growing up and moving around so much to all of these very distinct cultures?
On one hand, it was a huge pain in the ass, right?
Yeah, I bet.
It was a constant adaptation to a new culture that, oftentimes, I would break social norms and social rules, unintentionally. I remember moving from Bolivia to Ecuador, same continent, same language, but sometimes the slang was a little bit different. So one word that meant "Hey, you're cool" meant you're an asshole. I remember saying that one time. I was as a 6-year-old telling that to the teacher.
Yeah.
Trying to tell them, "Hey, you're cool," but it didn't translate well, and I got in trouble. So I had to often make those cultural faux pas and.
Which I'm sure everybody would, but I wonder if part of that kind of hid your future autism diagnosis because you were constantly shifting what social norms were.
It certainly allowed for me to be really good at masking and and observing and constantly monitoring myself for that social to become acceptable in that social setting.
Yeah, totally. Which is a really good skill to have, but also kind of takes away part of who you are and is probably a really uncomfortable feeling once you start realizing that it's kind of disingenuous, by accident disingenuous.
And exhausting.
Yeah, exhausting, for sure. Absolutely. So you said, I believe in your email, you had struggled with suicide and self-harm previously. I assume that was prior to your autism diagnosis?
No, it was after.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so let's get to the diagnosis. What led to that then? And then we'll get into the other stuff.
All right. So I was married, and in 2016, my then wife we were both in the same field, and so she decided to go into special education. And she pursued a master's degree in that. And I think it was the third or fourth day into class, she comes home and says, "Hey, Chris, I think you should get tested for autism," right? My ignorant self at the time said, "I know I'm quirky. I know I'm a little weird. I am not autistic. I am not the Rain Man." Right?
Right, yeah.
For me,
which is such a common thing for us to assume that that's what autism looks like.
Right. So I was like, I have a house. I have a job. No, I am not autistic, right? And so I didn't get. Finally, after years of her being persistent, she brought home an autism quotient test at home from work, and I took it. You know, I was
Yeah.
like, if this is going to get you to shut up and
Yeah,
leave me
totally.
alone about being autistic, like,
Yeah.
I will take this because you're like really starting to bug me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I took the autism coding test that she brought, and I was like, I don't know. So I scored within the range. I think the minimum range is 30, and I scored a 36. I took another one. You know, it was 34, then a 37. You know, I ended up taking it like 4 or 5 times. And I was clustered within that, like, low to high 30s.
Okay.
So then I was like, okay, so data is data. What's next step? Well, you have to go see a therapist, or not a therapist.
Psychologist or...
Psychologist, a clinical professional that will diagnose you. So we went through that, and it was like, I think it was like a couple months of testing and interviews and finally that diagnosis came. Like, it was like shortly after, before we went into full lockdown mode for COVID.
Right. Yes.
March 2020 is when I got diagnosed.
Wow. That's a lot of life changes all at once.
Yeah.
And how old are you?
41.
Okay. Yeah, so you would have been in your like mid 30s basically when this came to be. Wow. And then so your initial kind of thought was, I'll do these tests just to shut you up. As you went through this process of kind of maybe a little bit of self-discovery or a little bit more awareness about autism, what autism really looked like through the testing and the conversations with the psychologist, did you come to terms more with the diagnosis, or did you still feel resistant to it?
That side of it was like one of the biggest eureka moments I've had in my life. Right? Like everything, as I was getting tested, I was learning more and like reading more and researching more, and I was like, shit, this makes sense. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good. You're good. Nope, you can swear. You're good.
This like everything that I was dealing with, thought it was weird about me, or like why I couldn't even sustain eye contact, and my strong desire of routine and sameness, it like finally had a name, and so I knew, and at the same time I knew that I didn't want it to be a crutch, or just be like, oh, I can't do this because I'm autistic. I wanted to be able to work with it, befriend it, and meet the world halfway, and at the same time become my own best self advocate.
Absolutely. And then you have a name for what you're experiencing, which I know for me with borderline really helps, right? Just to be able to like kind of feel less strange. You said earlier, like, you're a quirky guy, and like I was always different. I always knew that I wasn't normal, quote unquote, but I didn't know what that was. So getting a diagnosis was helpful. And so because we want to kind of demystify this Rain Man perception of what autism looks like, what does it look like in your life? What is your day-to-day experience with autism? You said eye contact is a challenge, and a love, or maybe not love is the right word, but like desire for routine. Is there anything else that kind of comes up?
And structure and order, right? Now, there are the sensory issues too. Like, I cannot stand the sound of when someone chews with their mouth open.
There's a word for that. I can't remember what it's called, but yeah.
Or like, and this is, I'm asterisk, I love children. I love other people's kids because I can give them back.
Same.
And if I see anyone abusing a kid, I will beat the shit out of them. But like, kids make me really nervous because it's kind of antithetical to everything that is like, they're not ordered and structured. There's so much unpredictability, and that makes me really nervous, right? and even the pitch of their voice. Like if they're at a certain age, that I know they can't help it, and I know they're.
I know, totally, it's not their fault, but
You know,
yeah,
it's like if a kid talks to me and they have that pitch, I can't make out the words. So I have to look at the parents like, what are they saying? You know,
right.
and at the same time, it's like, you remember those old cartoons, Tom and Jerry, when Jerry brought up Kong and hits it, and Tom just starts shaking.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
It's kind of like that in my head when the poor kid is talking. So
yeah,
that's what it kind of looks like in my day to day.
That's so fair. I feel really similarly around the kid thing. Like I don't have my own kids, but I have nieces and nephews, and I am actually watching them tonight. To a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old and a 5.5-year-old. I'm babysitting tonight, and I'm legitimately terrified because that age, I'm as it was funny. I email before people come on the podcast. I always email them instructions, and you were like, "Ooh, I think we're gonna get along great because of how clear your instructions were." I like that clarity. I like simplicity of like understanding and just emotional dysregulation of children causes me to like be on edge the entire time I'm with them, and it's not their fault, obviously. But yeah, there's so much similarity, I think, in how I cope with emotions and how it sounds like you cope with maybe that, I don't know, like difference in how your brain works around people.
Yeah, and like if I hear a kid crying or anything, like poor kid, but like I have to leave the room. Like
yeah,
it's like and
totally.
It's I'm also like very literal and like very blank. Like say what you like. If you say X, I'm gonna do
that's
X
what you mean.
or interpret X. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, but if you say X and actually really mean Y, why don't you say Y?
Right. Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna sit here and infer try and infer like you said X but you meant Y, so why don't you say Y?
Totally.
Yeah. So that's how kind of my brain works and how autism manifests itself.
And did you know those things about yourself before you were diagnosed?
Yeah, but I thought it was me being stupid. Like I didn't know it was because I was autistic. Like growing up, and if someone said X and meant Y, like that's like, why wasn't I smart? Like, why wasn't I smart?
Right? Why didn't I figure that out? Yeah.
Or like if someone told a joke or anything, like, or said some new idiom, I have like, you have to like sit there and explain it to me for me to be able to string it together. So like, I just felt dumb.
Right. Yeah. And then you're adding in, again, cultural differences and language differences. Like, how many languages do you speak?
Oh, 5.
Oh my God. I can't even imagine trying to interpret like slang or idioms or metaphors in other languages. Even if you're neurotypical, that would be so challenging.
Yeah. It's ironically enough, the hardest place I had trouble adapting to with everything was the U.S.
Why is that?
I think it's because there's so much nuance that goes unsaid for a country and a culture that prides itself on being direct and being blunt. There's a lot that isn't. I don't know if you've been to the American South. Their nice way of saying "fuck you" is saying like, "Oh, bless your heart," right?
Right. Why would you? How would you think that means "fuck you"? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, bless your heart. Oh, like, thank you. Like,
totally.
That's so nice. And rather than telling me, oh, you're being stupid or you're being an idiot or like, fuck you, I get things like that here in the U.S. Whereas overseas, it was a lot more cut and dry. Like if you piss someone off, they'll tell you, "Hey, you pissed me off. This is not cool." Or if they knew I was new in the country and like I did something wrong, like they would like actually say like, "Hey, I know you're gonna hear that.
Yeah.
Let's go outside and I'm gonna explain this to you." And so like that nuance, it was a lot more clear, like where that difference lies, and that nuance is a lot more explained and was more concrete than here. Like here, you have to like sit and figure it out. That people don't really tell you.
Yeah. Well, and they might be assuming that if because you were born in the States, right?
I was born in Paraguay. Well, my mom was a Peace Corps volunteer.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's wild. But like, people in the States might just assume that you understand everything that's going on in the States versus like when you go to another country and you're obviously from somewhere else, they're like, oh, they're giving you maybe more like guidance or leeway than you would get at home.
And like I'm a foreigner in my own country because like every time I leave, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what changes. And I had an American passport since I was born, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, even though I was born abroad, I was born to an American mom. I'm like Ted Cruz.
Yeah.
I didn't know often what the cultural context was here in the U.S. Things move so fast. Like even the 3 years I spent living and working in Madagascar, I came back and I missed out on Katy Perry. I was like, "The hell's Katy Perry?"
That's so funny. Yeah, it makes sense.
And and they're like, "You gotta be kidding me! Like, we've been living under a rock. Actually, not been living in the other side of the world." So
yeah. Weirdly, Katy Perry wasn't the priority for Madagascar at the time. Yeah, that's really funny. Yeah, I mean that would be so confusing. So you get diagnosed, and then this is when the suicide and self-harm kind of thoughts start coming about. What's the connection there, or is there one?
Oh, there is. So, in a moment where I felt relief that, like, hey, things make sense now. Almost immediately, my mother-in-law, it started with my mother-in-law. She's like, "That's unfortunate. You're an embarrassment to the family. You shouldn't be married to my daughter. I'm going to do everything I can to get you guys divorced," and the whole shaming for me being autistic started. And and I would start to defend myself like, "Wait a minute, your daughter's dyslexic."
Right. And also you're the same person you were before you had a label for it. It doesn't change who you are.
Yeah, exactly. And like, we have a beautiful home that like, I have a good job. Like, nothing's changed. Like, I just got a stupid piece of paper. And then she would get mad. My wife would get mad at me. Why are you being so defensive to my mom? Don't you autistic people are all assholes. But
oh my God.
you're the one that pushed me to get tested.
Yeah.
And so then she started joining in, and then I wish it was hubris when I say that it was every day for 3 years. I was told how awful I was because of my autism, how I should kill myself because I'm autistic.
Wow.
The world would be better off with one less person with autism, from both my wife and her mom.
Oh my God. How long have you guys been together?
When I got diagnosed, I got married in it doesn't matter. I think we got married in 2013.
Yeah, so it's not like you were brand new in their life. That's insane.
Yeah, we were married. We had already been married 7 years by the time I got diagnosed. Nothing changed except for that stupid piece of paper.
Yeah, literally.
After hearing that from those 3 years, that's when it rewires you.
Yeah, you internalize it.
It erodes your sense of self.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, that's the connection. That's why it started, right? And And so it got to the point, it was with such intensity and such fervor that I tried twice. I'm a survivor, right?
Yeah.
Thank God I didn't. Thank God, like in hindsight, thank God I didn't succeed. Right?
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I was going into and mind you, my parents had, and my family and the world knew nothing of what was going on. Like I had kept everything.
So it was just your wife and her mom that knew, basically.
Yeah, and how can I, as a man, admit that I was, and that's such a bad stigma that we have in our society, that men have to be quiet, men are strong, men aren't the victim of something.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's one of the reasons why they prevented me from even speaking out. In 2023, I opened up to my sister. I think it was March or April of 2023 when I opened up to her and said, this is what's happening, and this is what I tried to do. After the second time, my wife had found me, and I think it scared her because, how is she going to explain that to my family?
Right. Yeah.
So we had worked. She wanted to do therapy, and was I'm really sorry. So when my sister's like, "You don't need me to come get you. I'm going to come get you." I was like, "No, we're going to do therapy, marriage counseling, and that's a couple sections." Because when it was my turn to speak, I said, "Well, this is why I'm here. It's because I outlined I'm in therapy because of what she did to me, and I want this to stop." And the therapist was like, "What?" Jaw just dropped to the floor. And he's like, "What the hell's wrong with you, lady?"
Yeah.
And that's when therapy ended, and that prompted if the abuse was set at 100 out of 100, before that, it intensified to 150 over 100. I started to fade. It wasn't until around September of 2023, where I was like, I've had it. And I texted my sister, and I was like, "Hey, I'm not sure how much longer I can hang on." And she was like, "Can you hang until morning?" "Yep. Pack bed. I'm coming to get you." And packed it up. And so she brought me back home to Massachusetts. We were living in Maryland. My wife and I were living in Maryland. She drove through the night, and there you go.
Wow. I'm so glad you were able to get out of that situation. That sounds horrible.
Yeah. So we ended up fully filing for divorce in early 2024. And I'm still wrapping my head around it, trying to find the logic as to why do you want me to get tested? If you did this, and you're a special educator, what do you, if you did this to me, what are you doing to kids?
Well, I was going to ask, is she still in special education?
She is, as far as I know, she's still teaching.
That's terrifying.
Yeah. And then I think, I'm in a position where I know how dangerous this person can be. Should I say something to someone? Right?
Yeah.
But I don't know if she does at work. All I know is what she did to me, right?
Yeah.
And so I can't speculate what she does, right?
Yeah, I would think that if that's your attitude, though, against people with any sort of learning difficulties or autism or anything, that's pretty ingrained in your view of the world. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
What did she do when you left?
What did she do when I left?
Yeah.
Well, Um, I initially started the process to get divorced, and she postponed it, kicked the can down the road, made everything difficult, and throughout it was like calling me, crying, saying, "Oh, another chance. I didn't mean to hurt you." I got talked into giving her a second chance, and what that meant was, all right, like we sell the house, you come to Massachusetts and with a job, because I can't go back to the house. Like that's where all the stuff happened, and like I'm trying to move forward, and or you know what, we split up, and like we sell the house. I keep my 50, you keep your 50, and you can be no harm, no foul. I will, yeah. No, she chose to come, and I said, okay, we'll try this for 6 months, and we lasted 2 months before it started again, and that's when the divorce continued.
Good for you for setting that boundary of saying, like, I'm not going back there. You can come to me. This is a fresh start. Like, I can't do this.
It wasn't easy. It was the hardest.
No.
One of the hardest things ever. I don't cry a lot. I can count a handful of times where I've actually cried. And the first time I cried in a really long time was I went down to help pack out the house and get sold it. And the night everything was gone. And we were about I was sitting in my empty house that I had worked so hard to buy and pay off and maintain. Like I just lost it. Like I loved that house. Like despite the shit that went down in that house, I love that house. But it was really hard.
Yeah.
And there was another incident the night before she left where she had we got into this whole thing of she had made plans to move down to Maryland in secret and buy a condo with her mom. And I was like, well, 2 months in, you begged for this chance, and I'm just finding out about this. Like, what the hell's going on? Why do you have to ask so many goddamn fucking questions? You and your goddamn logical, autistic mind. And
oh my God.
I hate it here. And she handed me a knife and said, why don't you just fucking finish what you started? Finish in front of me. And, that was the catalyst of. And so I felt like I needed a higher level of care then. And I checked myself into a hospital a couple weeks later. Cause shit hit the fan. In such an intense way. And I'm thankful I did it, actually, because it laid the foundation for me to, and gave me tools to start like deprogramming myself from that sense of worthlessness, and abuse, and it's still tools that I use today. And it's also something I'm trying to destigmatize, right? Like it's if you're in love in a psych ward, it doesn't mean that not all the time it means that you're crazy, right?
Yeah. It means you were actually trying to do something about what's going on in your life.
Exactly. And I wish that there wasn't this, like, I was just having this conversation with writer friend of mine who also writes with me, and I was sitting there at the hospital. Yes, there were some people that had schizophrenia, and they were off their meds, and or had like severe bipolar disorder, and they were not wanting to take their meds. And I met a Colombian girl who she was there for similar reasons to me. And after a few days, like her and I became we, unexpected allies in the hospital. And, like, our problem, what we have, we can control the outcome, right? We can, like, yes, it's depression. Like, we can struggle with depression, but like, we can manage the feature of it and the progress, like how bad it is. These poor other people that have skipped, like, look at these guys. They're gonna be schizophrenic forever or bipolar forever.
Yeah.
Like, okay, depression is a mental health issue, and there's no traditional cure, but it's a lot more manageable and a lot easier to manage than like schizophrenia.
And it's episodic usually too, right? There's usually a period where you're not experiencing it, which isn't. I mean, obviously with schizophrenia, bipolar, like there are periods where you're not experiencing it because of treatment, medication, and that kind of thing. But that challenge will likely be with you for ever.
Yeah, and with us, like, we can only get stronger, right? We can. Yeah. And so, like, that kind it put a lot of things into perspective for me going there. And my only grievance of the, like, mental health system is they package it up so nice, right? Here are the tools. If you do this, and this, you will be great, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, tools help, and if you apply the tools with practice, you will be fine. What they don't tell you is that it's not as linear as they present it to be.
No, definitely not.
And
that's a shitload of work. You can't, using the tools isn't just like perfect, I'm gonna go to sleep at the right time and go drink enough water. Like, it's very difficult tools.
It requires a lot of behavior change and consistency and practice and, like, mindfulness. Like when your mind starts going into this dark place, like, you have to, like, be mindful and conscious enough to, like, oh shit, I'm spiraling again. Like, I need to, like, what do I need to do? You take one step forward today and then 30 steps backwards tomorrow, and yes, there's a positive progression, but it's not as linear as it gets presented. And sometimes I like in conversations with I meet up with people that are struggling with mental health, and like, how did you become so strong so quickly? And it's like, I'm not, like, don't compare yourself to me, because what works for me won't work for anybody else, right? But what I think is helpful is, like, starting looking for those small wins, right? And I think it's a combination of things, but starting with the small wins leads you to get better, right?
Yeah.
Like, and leads to that glamorous cinematic moment where everything does turn out fine, right? And it's usually mundane, crappy things that getting up and making your bed. Yeah.
I'm very bad at that one. I never do that one.
Just maybe just getting out of bed and going outside, right?
Truly. I'm trying to work on my sleep schedule right now, and it's one of those things where it's like, I'm an intelligent person who enjoys routine, and my God, I hate working on my sleep schedule. It's so challenging.
Yeah, and it's not easy, but like, if you keep at it, like, there is some truth to power when they say it turns out fine. And there is no timeline, right? There are still a lot of days where I still struggle. I wasn't in the same position I was in February 2024.
Very much so.
And so, like, it gives me hope for a future, right?
And I think part of what helped too was in my quest for small steps, right? Um, my small steps led to going outside. I was living in an apartment complex at the time. It led to going outside more often because my dog had to pee, which led to, hey, can I pet your dog? Oh yeah, uh, oh, cool, thanks. Then the next day, seeing the same repeat of people like, oh, what's your dog's name?
Mm-hmm.
Why are you asking questions? Like,
Right.
no, but like that's what like went in my head. But like, it actually led me to friending a lot of people in the complex, and I met a girl, and who was complete opposite of what I had just months prior. I wasn't looking to date. I was just like, I just saw my friend. She was talking to a cute girl, and I wanted to just to say hi to a cute girl. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, cute girl. I'm Chris. All right.
Yeah.
Have fun, you too. See you later.
Yeah.
And we ended up talking for like, we were dating like 4 days later, and
Wow.
and like I told her, you may not want to love, or you may not love me because I'm autistic. She's like, it's like, did you just hear what I said? It's like, I'm autistic, and you may not want to love me. Yeah, but I want to go karting, or I want to go do karaoke.
I don't care. Yeah.
So that was like a fresh breath of fresh air. And she would leave me notes like, I love you more than I want to strangle you. Hashtag. So that helped. Pickleball helped. Having my sister come over and me going over her house. Like, it's a combination of things that, and that support system. You can't do it alone. Small wins in the support system and talking to people about your shit is one of the things that I strongly advocate for.
And I'm so glad you do, because throughout this hour you've mentioned so much about things that, especially for men, are not talked about, right? Being the victim of domestic violence, living with autism, surviving suicide. Those are 3 things, or being suicidal at all. Those are 4 things, let's say, that, I mean, a lot of people don't talk about, but I would say men especially don't talk about. And have you made connections with others who have been really inspired by your story? Because it's a very inspiring story to share more openly and be okay with that.
So this is where the emo part about the story goes. So Katie got sick last March.
This is the girl that you met?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was put on the ventilator, and none of us knew what was going on. Like, I just started writing. Like,
yeah.
The idea was, I'm going to write and tell you why I am so walled and so guarded all the time. But, once you make it through, I want to work on this together with you, right? Even if we don't end up together as a couple down the line, like, I want you as my friend and as part of my support system.
Yeah.
So so it was outlining that. When I got to her chapter, her short story, and she died.
Wow. I'm so sorry.
And it was really hard to lose her. But at the same time, I was like, damn, like, I reflected on her impact on me the day she died, and like how can I live her or push her legacy forward? And I was at a loss. It wasn't until my sister came. It was a few days after she died. She came to check up on me and take me out to dinner. Because I left the house for days.
Yeah.
I had my thing open, my computer open, and I was like rereading her chapter. Like, she's like, let's go. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna take a shower. And when I came back, she was reading it. And this is good. I'm like, you're my sister. You're so like. Long story short, she convinced me to publish it. I published it, and it wasn't until and I just started doing things locally here. I, I was at the coffee shop where I wrote the book. I had to get out of the house to write because otherwise I'm going to lose it. And there was I was presenting some books for an event, and these two kids, and by kids, they weren't kids. They're in their 20s. And
feels like kids.
Yeah, they were like Shadow. My dog was with me, and they were initially more interested in the dog than me. Obviously, I prefer it that way. And then started talking about the book. She's like, "What is this?" And I was like, "Oh, it's my book." And there was a lady in there table. I didn't see her. I didn't recognize her, but she heard us talking, and she came up to us, and was like, "I bought your book last month. It helped me stay."
Wow.
The day I went to get your book, someone who knows you encouraged me to go get it because you were going to talk about like suicide and all this stuff, and like you helped me make that choice to stay, and like literally that moment, it was like a defibrillator to my soul. Or like when you're underwater, and then and that's how and then I met more people that I picked up my book locally, and I got talking to a lot of them, and even on Substack, I write a lot about what I went through there too. I didn't realize how my story was going to make a difference, right?
Yeah.
Because, and I hear a lot of anecdotes of like, "Oh, this is how you helped me, or you helped me understand my son."
Yeah.
And then it becomes like, it no longer becomes my story. It becomes our story.
Beautiful. Well, I'm going to link your Substack and your book, obviously, in the show notes here because I haven't read them, truthfully, but I want to. I'm not a big reader. I'm a really big audiobook person. And
I want someone.
Your story is incredible.
I gotta get really good at accepting compliments. I'm not there yet.
That's so fair. It is hard. But like truly, I mean, to go through so much and to think about the fact that so much of this has been in the last 6 years is kind of crazy. That's a lot of things to go through in 6 years, and this huge discovery of yourself and why you are the way that you are as kind of the preface of that is wild.
Yeah, and one of the things that puts it into perspective is a couple of things. Like, who was having a conversation with? She was like, "No, Chris, I'm mad at you that you didn't come out to me when you were going to do this because suicide is selfish." And I said, I respectfully disagree that it's selfish. And she said, "Why?" And I said, "Well, because I am glad for you that you've never got pushed to an edge, right? And this is why it isn't selfish. It's because the person is so exhausted from crying out for help, looking for help, and not being heard or given the help that they so seek and desperately need. So it's that moment of exhaustion that drives people to take that leap and take that plunge, right? And so I'm glad you were you were never put in that situation, right? And so it's not a fun club to be in.
No.
But it's a better club to be in, having stood there and deciding to remain on this side of the grass, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's very hard to see when you're there. It's hard to see the good in what's around you, right?
Yeah. Everything just becomes so dark and like suffocating.
And it wasn't like up until the point I started to like really put words on the page. Like it kind of forced me to, like, I was getting emotionally exhausted in the first like part of what I was writing. I was like, God damn, I need a break.
Mm-hmm.
So I started writing about the good things. Like my life wasn't all bad.
Yeah, totally.
I lived overseas, and I had so many good people come into my life, and like saw me for who I am, and like built me up, and now I have like this community around me, and holy fuck, I'm lucky, right? And it was an awful 3 years that I went through. I think all this really outweighs the shit I went through. I just have to work with what happened in here, right?
And keep working at it, not just be like, okay, it's done now, because that will stick with you. Yeah.
It's never done. It becomes easier to carry.
Yes, totally.
But you're never done.
No. Wow. Well, Christopher, we're at an hour here, but I so appreciate everything that you shared with us today. And I'm so glad you reached out. This is the kind of story that I think there's a lot of people that listen to this podcast that either have an autism diagnosis or think that they may have an autism diagnosis, or they may have autism rather. And I think your story just will resonate with so many people. So I really appreciate you coming on and sharing it.
Well, thanks for letting me tell it.
Of course. Amazing. Thanks so much, Chris.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you so much for listening to the Superfeeler podcast. This episode was recorded on the traditional and unceded territory of the Matsqui and Sumas First Nations. If you'd like to learn more about the Superfeeler podcast, share your story, or participate in the Superfeelers Club, which is our peer support group, it's totally free, virtual, and open to anyone who experiences intense emotions or has borderline personality disorder, please check out the link in our show notes or go to laurieedmondson.com. If you would like to support the show, we would very much appreciate it. There's an option to do monthly small donations at whatever denomination you'd like, patreon.com/superfeeler, or again in the notes below. Thanks again, and have a great day.